Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of user-centered design. So whether you're prepping for like a big design meeting or just want to learn a bit more about what makes, a digital product really tick. Plus, we'll uncover some pretty shocking stats. Like, did you know that 70% of online businesses fail, and often because of bad usability?
Yikes. That's a lot.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But on a more positive note, we'll also see how companies like Ford and Costa Coffee are using UCD to create those, those products that people just absolutely love.
As long as they just work.
Exactly. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. What exactly is UCD?
Well, in a nutshell, UCD is all about putting the user first.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's about making design decisions based on the needs and the desires of the people who will actually be using the product or service.
So it's like instead of just, designing something and hoping people will like it, you're actually taking the time to understand what they want and need from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about making things easy to use, although that's definitely a big part of it.
Right.
But it goes deeper than that. It's about understanding the user psychology, their emotional background, creating an experience that truly resonates with them on a deeper level.
Okay, so it's like you're trying to get inside the user's head and figure out what makes them tick.
Exactly. And speaking of understanding your customers,
Yeah.
the blog post mentions that a whopping 68% of users will actually abandon a brand if they feel like it doesn't care about them.
Wow, that's a huge percentage.
Right. So in a world that's completely saturated with apps and websites, creating a positive user experience is absolutely essential for survival.
It's no longer just a nice to have, it's a must have.
Couldn't agree more. Now, the blog post outlines 8 core principles of UCD.
8.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first one is product vision and impact, which might seem pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, every product needs a vision, right?
It does, but it's about having a crystal clear why for your product.
So like what problem are you solving? What value are you offering to users?
Exactly. It's about having that North Star that guides your team and keeps everyone focused on the big picture.
Okay, makes sense. So you've got your North Star. What's next?
Next comes understand your customers. And this is where the rubber meets the road. You're gathering both quantitative and qualitative data.
So we're talking about things like surveys and user testing.
Absolutely. And even using tools like UXCam to analyze actual user behavior.
Now, for those who might not be familiar with UXCam, can you explain what that is?
Sure. UXCam is a really cool tool that helps companies see exactly how people are interacting with their apps or websites. It's like having X-ray vision into the user experience.
So you can see things like where people click, how long they stay on a page, even watch recordings of their sessions.
Precisely. It's an incredibly powerful way to uncover usability issues and identify areas for improvement.
It sounds like a goldmine of information, but it also sounds like it could be kind of overwhelming to sort through all that data.
That's where the next principle comes in. Choose the most significant opportunity. You can't tackle every single problem at once. You need to prioritize based on impact.
So you're looking for the changes that will make the biggest difference, both for the users and for your business.
Right. It's about focusing your efforts on the areas where you can have the most meaningful impact.
So once you've identified those key areas, how do you know if you're on the right track? How do you measure success in UCD?
That's a great question. And that's where the principle of measure success through outcomes comes into play. It's about shifting your focus from outputs to results.
Okay, so it's not just about how many features you ship. It's about how those features actually impact user behavior and drive your business goals.
Exactly. It's about using data to track your progress and make sure your design choices are moving the needle in the right direction.
It's like you're constantly checking in with your users, making sure their needs are being met.
Yeah, and sometimes the data might surprise you. You might think a feature is fantastic, but the data tells a different story.
So data is king in the world of UCD.
Absolutely. You can't make informed decisions without it.
Okay, so data-driven design, got it. What's the next principle?
The next one emphasizes teamwork. Collaborate to innovate. Reminds us that UCD thrives on bringing different perspectives to the table.
So we're talking about designers, product managers, UCD experts, all working together to brainstorm the best possible solutions.
Exactly. It's about leveraging the collective wisdom of the team to create something truly exceptional.
Makes sense. So once you've got those creative juices flowing, how do you make sure you're not just going with your gut?
That's where create hypotheses comes in. It's about framing your ideas as testable hypotheses.
So instead of assuming you know what users want, you're actually using a data-driven approach to validate your assumptions.
Right. And that leads us to the next principle. Test and validate testing is a crucial part of the UCD process. And it's not a one-time event, it's an ongoing process.
So you're testing your designs before, during, and after development?
Precisely. You're constantly evaluating your designs, identifying any usability issues, and making sure you're on the right track.
It's like a continuous feedback loop with your users.
Exactly. And speaking of feedback, that brings us to our final principle. Iterate based on data.
Okay, so this is where you take all the insights you've gathered from your testing and use it to refine your designs.
Absolutely. UCD is all about continuous improvement.
Yeah.
You're never really done. You're always looking for ways to make things better based on real user feedback.
So even if the initial design seems successful, there's always room for improvement.
Always. It's like sculpting. You start with a rough shape and then gradually refine it based on what you learn from your users.
I like that analogy. So we've covered the 8 principles, which act as sort of a roadmap for good UCD. But how do we actually put those principles into practice?
That's where the 7 steps of the UCD process come in. And that's what we'll be diving into next.
Great. I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty.
Let's do it.
All right. So we talked about the theory behind UCD, but how does this all play out in the real world?
Well, the blog post actually highlights a bunch of examples of how some pretty big names are using UCD to create really stellar user experiences.
Yeah, I saw that they mentioned companies like Costa Coffee, Ford Orange, even Vodafone. What do all these companies have in common?
I think they all get that, in today's world, user experience can really make or break a company.
Right.
They're not just building products, they're building experiences and ones that really resonate with their customers.
Okay. And the blog post specifically mentions UXCam as a tool that these brands are using.
Right.
So can you remind us what UXCam is and how it fits into this whole UCD process?
Yeah. So UXCam, it's a mobile app analytics platform. Think of it like you have X-ray vision into how people are using your app.
Okay.
You can see where they get stuck, what frustrates them, what they love. It's really powerful stuff.
So it's not just about collecting data, it's about understanding the why behind the numbers. Like, why are people abandoning their shopping carts, or why are they, struggling to find a certain feature?
Yeah, exactly. And UXCam has some really cool features like session replays and heat maps that can be super helpful for spotting these usability issues and making the user experience as smooth as possible.
Okay, those sound interesting. Can we dig into those a bit more? Like, what exactly are session replays?
Sure. So session replays let you actually watch recordings of real users interacting with your app.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can see exactly where they tap, where they swipe, where they hesitate. It's like you're looking over their shoulder.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. And what about heat maps? What do those show?
Heat maps, they give you a visual representation of, where people are clicking or tapping the most on the screen.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So it's like a weather map for your app. The hotspots show you areas of high engagement, and the cold spots show you the areas that are being ignored.
So you can quickly see, what's grabbing people's attention and what's falling flat.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just scratching the surface.
Really?
Yeah. UXCam also has things like funnel analytics, retention analytics, even user journey analytics. It's really a whole toolbox for understanding your users.
So it's like you said, X-ray vision into how people are actually experiencing your product.
Exactly.
But okay, so you have all this data now. How do you actually turn those insights into tangible improvements?
Well, that's where the iterative nature of UCD comes in.
Right.
You use the data to pinpoint the areas for improvement, and then you tweak your designs, you test them with users, and then you iterate based on their feedback.
Yeah.
It's this constant cycle of learning and optimizing.
So you're always monitoring, analyzing, and improving based on, real user data. That's how you build those products that people really love and keep using.
Absolutely. And the blog post emphasizes that even designs that you think are successful can benefit from this process.
Okay.
There's always room for improvement. And by constantly listening to your users and making these small adjustments, you can really stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, so this is all starting to make sense to me. Now, I'm curious, though. Does the blog post offer any, hard evidence that UCD actually works? Like, does it actually lead to better results?
It does. They cite some pretty compelling statistics from Forrester and Adobe. Their research found that brands that prioritize UX actually see over 1.5 times higher year-over-year growth in key metrics.
Wow, like what kind of metrics are we talking about here?
Things like customer retention, repeat purchase rates, and even customer lifetime value.
Wow, so it's not just about making people happy, it's also about, the bottom line.
Exactly. Investing in UX, it's not just a nice to have, it's a smart business move.
It can boost revenue, increase customer loyalty, and strengthen your brand all at the same time.
Yeah, it's really about building products that are not only functional, but also enjoyable to use. That's what makes a brand stand out in today's market.
Okay, so I think the takeaway here for our listeners, whether you're a designer, a product manager, or even, a business leader, the message is pretty clear. User-centered design, it's essential if you want to thrive.
Absolutely.
It's about shifting your focus from just, building things to crafting experiences that people genuinely love.
And using data and insights to constantly make those experiences even better.
Well, remember everyone, UCD, it's not a destination, it's a journey. It's a journey of discovery and iteration and constant evolution.
Exactly.
It's about building products that solve real problems and delight users and ultimately drive business success.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I kind of want to, zoom out a little bit and consider the bigger picture here. Maybe UCD isn't just about better products. Maybe it's about a better world.
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah. Idea of UCD leading to a better world.
Yeah. It's a pretty exciting thought, isn't it?
It is. How do we get there, though?
Well, it starts with that fundamental shift in mindset. Instead of just focusing on, features and functionalities, we start thinking about the human impact of our designs.
So it's about recognizing that design has this, this power to improve people's lives.
Absolutely. Like imagine medical devices that are so intuitive, so easy to use that anyone can understand them regardless of, age or ability.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Or think about healthcare apps that, that actually empower people to take control of their own health.
Right. Give them the tools and the information they need to make informed decisions.
Exactly. And it's not just healthcare either. Education is another area where UCD can make a huge difference.
Yeah, how so?
Well, think about educational software that's, engaging and personalized, adapting to different learning styles and helping students really thrive.
Yeah, that could revolutionize how we learn.
It really could. And, it doesn't stop there. UCD can actually play a big role in tackling some of the world's biggest challenges.
Okay, like what?
Well, things like climate change and social inequality.
I'm curious, how does design fit into those issues?
By designing products and services that are sustainable and accessible, we can actually promote, environmental responsibility and social inclusion.
So things like energy-efficient appliances that help people reduce their carbon footprint, or digital platforms that connect people from, different backgrounds and build a sense of community.
Exactly. UCD has this power to shape not just our products, but our society and even our planet.
It's amazing to think that design can be a force for good in so many ways.
That's what's so compelling about this field. When we embrace this user-centered approach, we're not just designing for today, we're designing for a better tomorrow.
This whole conversation has really opened my eyes to, the responsibility that designers have. Their choices can really have a ripple effect, impacting people's lives in countless ways.
It's true. And as we've seen UCD, it's more than just a set of rules or a process. It's really a mindset.
It's a way of thinking about the world and our place in it.
Exactly. It's about empathy, understanding, and this genuine desire to make a positive impact.
And that's what makes it so exciting and rewarding.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into user-centered design. I hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as I have.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And remember, the best way to master user-centered design is to practice it. Get out there, talk to your users, understand their needs, and design solutions that make a real difference.
Keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with UCD.
And who knows, maybe your next design will change the world.
Until next time, happy designing, everyone.